PlayStation is reportedly in talks to acquire the studios behind Dark Souls, Sekiro, and Bloodborne. Yeah, Reuters broke this story this week, and it kind of shocked me, but then after thinking of it, I was like, man, this really makes a ton of sense for Sony. Reuters basically said that like Sony has been talking about purchasing Kadokawa, which is the company that owns studios who have made games like Octopath Traveler, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, and of course, Dark Souls. Definitely worth noting here. So, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, and Bloodborne are created by a company called From Software. And Kadokawa only owns a 70% stake in that company. A portion of the remaining amount is owned by Sony. Sony has a 14% stake in From Software currently. So if they were to acquire Kadokawa, their ownership of the company would go to an 84%, which I would have to assume that Sony would just buy out the remaining 16% there, giving them a full ownership of this company. This was a rumor earlier in this week, and Kadokawa just threw fuel on the fire unnecessarily by releasing a statement that essentially confirmed that Sony has offered to acquire the company, but Kadokawa has not decided on whether or not they are taking the offer. And again, this is larger than just From Software, right? Kadokawa has IP in the anime, the manga, the TV world. And I really do think that, like, while yes, Sony is trying to secure their IP, some of the biggest third-party games on their platform, right? Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Elden Ring. Those are some of the biggest games in the last century of video games for PlayStation. So obviously they want to secure those and they don't want those to land anywhere else. But I also think that this is a huge play for PlayStation Studios, right? I mean, you start talking about like television, film, animation. This is massive. Like the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power series, incredibly made by Amazon. What if that same team created an Elden Ring show, right? You better believe PlayStation's going to want to be in charge of that. Well, that PlayStation's going to want their PlayStation Studios emblem to show up in the beginning of the intro. Or, I mean, imagine a Bloodborne horror film. Or even that, a Dark Souls movie or TV series. Why would you not want that? And I think that's just where PlayStation is right now. Like, PlayStation is in such a transmedia mindscape that it's not just gaming. It's merchandise, it's television, it's movie, it's comics, it's licensing, right? They're realizing the power of their IP. And I know we also have the rumor of a new Bloodborne coming. Bloodborne 2 is about to release, or we're going to get a Bloodborne remastered. The internet can't decide which one it is, and we're all just waiting for From Software to announce it. If that's true, that we do have a new Bloodborne coming, this purchase could be like PlayStation just wants to secure it, right? They're like, we want to own this IP before it launches on our platform. And again, I think we should like cap this off by saying that Sony and Kadokawa, they have not commented any further that this is happening. We don't know if it's happening. We don't know if it's closing. I'm sure we'll hear something in the next week or two. But yeah, I mean, this is one of those situations where unfortunately there's not anything more to say about it. Like, neither of the companies are expanding upon it. We're just going to have to wait for Sony to post a tweet that says, "Welcome to the PlayStation family." And when that happens, I can assure you, we will definitely be covering it on the daily. And if you don't want to miss it, $1.99 a month makes you a casual friend here on the channel. And it gets you about 20 episodes of the daily each month where we will cover news stories that break before we get into the studio for this major show. So